I am using this phone to type this to anyone who is reading, and anyone who can help me. Let me explain. Ever since I was 5 years old, I was able to do something incredible. Nobody ever believed me, and at first I thought I had a really vivid imagination. I can travel anywhere, to other worlds, by only creating a photo in my mind. Whatever I see projects in front of me, and I jump to the universe that closest resembles my picture. It first started at my 5th birthday, when my parents bought me a puppy for my birthday. I did not want a puppy, I wanted that beautiful red bicycle I saw at the store. I was fueled by the bad, ungrateful attitude I had where I would be angry and throw tantrums when I did not get what I wanted. I ended up seeing a window in front of me with the bicycle. My imagination was powerful, so I reached out and tried to touch it and pulled through what I can remember as a portal. It felt like a dream, and I did not quite understand what was happening. I suddenly relived the day from the beginning, and instead I received the bicycle for my birthday and had vanilla instead of chocolate cake. Slight difference. It wasn't something I could really maintain for a long time. Once I went to sleep, the following day I would wake up to my original reality. I was really disappointed when I woke up, and there was a dog sitting on my bedroom floor. At first it seemed like a dream until it kept happening. Once I had some more common sense. When I was 10 years old, I started to paint the picture of my desires intentionally and end up temporarily living the life I wanted. I practiced and became more aware that I had a really interesting ability. The only downside at the time seems to be that it was temporary. Either way, it was fun, and I got a glimpse of living the life I wanted for small periods. It became my escape and made me happy for a small time. This became my favorite activity, and I spent most of my time doing this, perfecting it, and getting really confused about how fluid my identity and reality really was. I kept doing this with a large portion of my life to see exactly how things would turn out with each different decision I made. I just wish I could stay longer, but as soon as I was tired, I could no longer keep the window open. This was creating a certain psychological issue where I couldn't face hurt or disappointment, and became more obsessed with changing that reality. No personal growth whatsoever. When I had my first girlfriend, it was great. I didn't spend much time really traveling between universes. I did not need to. I had everything I wanted at the time. When she started playing with my feelings, I jumped around to see the worlds where she wasn't doing it, and I jumped more to see what happened if I actually dated her sister instead of her. When she inevitably broke my heart and left me for another guy, I went to a world where that never happened there, and lingered as long as I could, avoiding the issue of having to deal with and sift through my feelings and recover from the heartache. Eventually, I got bored, got over it, and explored the multiverse with the rest of the decisions I was making, experiencing them from different points. I had a church my parents used to drag me to as a child. I even had a childhood crush there, but it wasn't my cup of tea, and I really wished it was more youth-friendly. My parents were religious, so I had no choice but to go along with them. I used my skills to travel to a dimension where the church was a lot more fun, but honestly, it felt weird. This was not a church, it was suddenly a cult. The pastor was sleeping with the females in the congregation, having rituals around a fire, and eventually every guy shaved his head, wore a gray robe, and had to give up their possessions. I noped the hell out of there. I then got fixated on this girl I had a crush on. It was from a really young age that I thought she was something special. She was always really unbothered by boys. She was so innocent, so energetic. All she wanted was to enjoy herself singing, doing her schoolwork, and playing her sports. I traveled to a place where she was interested in me, and day after day I went back there to see what our life was like. I lingered around for 5 years, doing this on a daily basis, and exhausting myself. But somehow, in that reality, she died while being alive in my original reality. What the hell? I tried shifting through the realities like a really fast channel surfing sessions, but no luck. I could not get another world like the one we lived. Either she cheated, or she broke up with me. One of them, she switched towns when she was young, and in the final world she dated girls. This was a moment of clarity. Art, she could be so beautiful no matter where she was or what she was doing, but I am glad to see she was still alive. I tried to be her friend in quite a few of these worlds. Every time That worked out just fine. All of this got interrupted by my parents' divorce. Now my whole world shattered, nothing made sense, and I felt even more alone and confused than before. Suddenly nothing else mattered. I jumped and jumped trying to find a place where I felt safe. I wound up in a reality where I lived with my dad, got to party like crazy and go out all the time. That was an interesting experience. I still think about it sometimes. Another reality I wound up in, I decided to live with my mom, and we left town. We were rather poor and struggling. I ended up dropping out of school. I even found a reality where they were still together, but they really were not happy or getting along, and eventually did wind up divorcing. It was one of those stay together for the kids situations. I eventually depressingly settled back into my first world and learned to survive. Mostly the alternatives were just as bad, and you can't really run away from certain things no matter how much you try, and your experiences stay with you no matter where you go. I essentially had been living 1,000 years worth of life in one lifetime. That was my point of view, since I lived every day like 100 times in different dimensions, patiently trying to live the best version and have a better story to tell. I didn't realize at the time that being 35 years old now, that would be the equivalent of living 3,000 years or more. More on this later. There are so many more instances, more mundane day-to-day experiences. My final school year, the day I graduated, the day I got my driver's license, the first car I drove, the first time I had sex, my first cigarette in hundreds of different venues, and for hundreds of different reasons, the day I had a lasting relationship again, the day I finally got married. And throughout the years of parenting, trying to find a place in this multiverse where I was doing it just right. I tried to find a world where my parents lived a little longer so I could have more time with them. How ironic, I spent all my childhood obsessed over different universes and didn't spend time with them, but once they were gone in my timeline, I traveled just about everywhere just to see them again. They weren't the same though. The people I knew no longer existed. I lived thousands of years, but not really taking the time to realize what is really important there, for not really making the best of the lives I had at all, with no way of even redoing it. What I didn't realize at the time was how the subconscious determines the things we see and inevitably change the projection of the pictures I create, pulling me into worlds I never intended to go. When you are inexperienced and have no one who can help you, you never know what you can get yourself into. Even then, a large portion of the places I went to more frequently became like checkpoints, and I would go there much easier, especially when I was stressed. It was fun. I felt like a god. I would be going through realities like flipping through a TV channel by channel. After a while it became easy, and I would linger at the places I loved the most. I thought I was the only one who did all the special kind of things. When you make the assumption that nobody can see you or teach you, there are things that take longer to master. I had no idea. No one in the world knew, and I was a god. Sadly, I was mistaken, because now I have caught the attention of someone. Every time I jumped to the day I got married, the man stood at the corner of the room. He had never been there before until 2 weeks ago. He stood at the corner of the room. He definitely stood out. Bald, middle-aged man with glasses, a suit and an earpiece. I am sure if I had lifted the shirt up, I would have seen a firearm. I paid no attention to it until I started seeing him speak to people. I thought I would avoid that day for a while and just go other places. To my amazement, he started showing up to a lot of places I frequented. Today he brought friends, 4 other men with the same attire, and they looked intent on catching me alone. I was spooked and needed to get out, go to a place I'd never been before, hide somewhere. This has never happened in all these years, and it's hard to understand why suddenly it seems like I have been found. I took a jump to a quiet place, a moment when I was 6, where I was sitting with my mom while my dad was at work. He used to work a 12-hour-a-day shift, and my mom stayed with me all day. We spent a lot of time together during the day. She taught me some basic math, how to write my name, memorize phone numbers, and we did many puzzles together. On this particular day we were just playing music and dancing together. This was a memory I found perfect and was never willing to change. I would be like a fly on the wall, and there should be no traces of my activity there. I would become a child and no one would recognize me. I was really shocked to find myself being followed. As I landed, I saw them land with me. This time these men seemed really intent on catching me, more violent. They drew their weapons, so I jumped again and again and started running. See it as someone running across a film strip, running between dimensions as they are being chased. It didn't take them long to catch up, as if they had an energy connection to me. I don't know how I can hide. I ran to an old memory of the church. When I was young, one of the days we were practicing for some or other stage performance. I think it was David and Goliath. I ran and hid between the cars, and they ran past. As I ran, I saw a friend of mine. This person is supposed to meet me approximately 20 years from now, but broad as daylight, here she is. I ran to the car, where she honked at me and told me to get in. "Catherine, what are you doing here?" I asked as she opened and pulled away. "These men came to me right after the barbecue we had on Sunday, September 6, 2020, and asked me many questions about you. I saw you were in trouble. I felt the movement, so I had to come get you. They looked really sketchy, so I jumped in their van," she responded. The answer seemed like something a really caring friend would say, but I had so many questions. So much confused me about the way she responded, and so much made me wonder why someone I only met with occasionally would even care enough to save me. All these thoughts were rushing through my head in a single moment, and before I knew it, the white van the other men had been driving cornered us. She tried to reverse and ended up driving through several shops to get to the highway on the opposite side of the exit route. When I could finally catch my breath, I tried to ask more questions, but she brushed it off, saying that she will explain later, or this is not the time. "You'll see soon," Catherine said in a scratchy voice, sounding angrier by the second. When I looked in the mirror, I was shocked. My face turned white. Catherine's eyes were silver. Something was wrong. Everything about this seemed off. This was a trap. Little did I know that metal makes it impossible for me to travel. I was stuck in that car. The old 1963 Ford she was driving was made of metal, and I didn't know what was going on. I was stuck. I grabbed my keys and stuck them in her throat as hard as I could, sending the car driving into the opposite lane and into the cars. As I came to, my car was surrounded. Men from all sides rushing toward me. I couldn't escape. They cuffed me. They took me to an airport. Right at the back of the airport was a series of tunnels. They escorted me inside, and we went to what seemed like a large office. This must be their headquarters, I thought. The handcuffs they had me in made it impossible for me to jump. I tried several times. They knew exactly what they were doing. When I entered the main building, I saw about 50 screens all over the room with videos of me, my family, spending time with friends, even me jumping in slow motion. I saw a big screen with a really difficult looking formula. I have no idea what this even meant. They threw me in a room with metal plating all over the floor and walls. "Unscrewed," I said. "Now, I still have my phone, which they surprisingly never took. I doubt they even care as long as I don't jump, I guess. I'm using this phone to type this to anyone who is reading, and anyone who can help me. If you know anything about this, please get me out of this. I think they are going to kill me or wipe out my entire family line."